Hey everybody, this video is part of our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. You can find that on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes. You can pretty much find it anywhere, so we don't care where you listen. Just stick around and check it out.
But Mark, we're going to move on into our next segment, and before we get into it, I got to apologize. I said Sean McVay. I meant Sean McVay.
You wanted to say
one
Sean the boy.
Well, I was thinking in my head Keith Van Noy for some reason. That's why I said Voy. But Sean McVay, the youngest head coach now in NFL history at the age of 30. He is going to be coming in as the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams as we are moving over from one Los Angeles team to another Los Angeles team. I'm going to get right to it, Mark. The biggest thing about this job is not about him being the right fit, has nothing about are they going to win games, are they going to be successful in LA. To me, the biggest and most important thing about this hire, can he develop? Can Sean McVay develop Jared Goff?
I think he can, honestly. I do. And the biggest piece of example on that is Kirk Cousins. Look what he did with Kirk Cousins. You know, look how successful he has been to where, man, that guy's going to get paid. He's going to get paid huge. He almost threw 5,000 yards. This is a team that was, you know, nearly playing in the playoffs. They controlled their own destiny. It was great. It was a great time to be a Washington Redskins fan, and I know that fans of Washington, they miss him. They miss him already. They are upset to see him go because of everything he was able to do. He made this team so productive offensively, and that's incredible, and that's what a young quarterback in Jared Goff needs. Yeah,
and I mean, this to me, I'm going to say this was another shocking hire to me. And it was one because when we talked about coaches, the one coach that I remember saying, I was like, I don't know if he's going to be the guy that people look at this year. I thought that people would be like, oh, let's give him a few interviews, then he gets a job next year, was McVay. I didn't think that he would have enough to get a job this year because I thought that the Rams were going to go with like a Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And that's the biggest thing with this one. And we mentioned it in the Charger segment of it's one of those things where did a team like the Rams, I'll bring this up, did a team like the Rams not want to wait around? Because for me, it's not a question of, is Sean McVay going to stink it up in LA? Because like you said, you've seen what he's done with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins drafted in 2012, this was when McVay was still the tight ends coach, and then 2014, 2 years later, is when he took over.
And you'll remember
that was Kirk Cousins'
that's when he started taking over.
That was in the injured year for RG3 before the breakout.
Because the big thing for Kirk Cousins was he had many opportunities. Every single season, he played games. The thing was that he never was able to really overcome that backup role.
He had 3, then 5, then 6, and then boom, 2-year starter.
He could never overcome backup, and then suddenly, all right, we're getting this kid to perform. We're getting him to perform well.
Well, and I mean, the big question then is, if you're Sean McVay, are you going to come in and cater your offensive system to Jared Goff, which to me sounds like, oh, that's what you would do. You would take the strengths of that quarterback and kind of cater your system to him? Or will it be here's my offensive system, I'm going to try to mold you into mini Kirk Cousins?
I think that to me, he seems very much the guy who is that leader of, you know, this is what I'm going to do. And you are going to come with me and you're going to do it. And that is kind of I'm going to mold Jared Goff into what I want him to be. And I think it's give or take. I don't think the guy's dumb. He knows that he can't get everything that out of Goff that he got out of Kirk Cousins. But he's going to say, this is what we're doing. This is the direction we're going. Come with me. And I think the thing that LA loved about this, the LA Rams, is that he's a young guy. He is an energetic type of guy. He has that great personality that you are going to want to see on camera. And that's what they were going for to have as the coach of the Los Angeles Rams? Is it a star-studded type of thing? They're going for somebody who can who can make people want to be fans of the Rams because they're competing against the Chargers now. And they already had this 1-year head start, but they're competing against the Chargers. And the big thing is whoever can win first wins. They get the fan base, whoever's left over, because there's Raiders fans all over the place there. But
LA is a Raider town. We'll always be a Raider town.
I mean, hell, the Cowboys have such a strong base in LA too.
Well, that's because of Jerry.
Yeah. So it's a tough market for them to try and get. It really is. But to me, I think that this is great. You get the guy who had made somebody who we all thought was a nobody in Kirk Cousins and made him to a guy who's about to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, quite possibly the highest paid quarterback in the league. And now you're going to get to do that with your young first overall rookie? Well, that's amazing.
And that's where the pressure is, because I think of if you're McVay and you're Jared Goff and you struggle this year, oh, Nelly, are things going to get hot, and they are going to get hot quick. Mm-hmm. Because if there is...
especially if Lynn does well with the Chargers.
I'm not going to say they have to come out here and make the playoffs or get to... Well, 79 bullshit might work, but
maybe
if there is not improvement from Jared Goff and this LA crowd doesn't see any improvement from him, it's just basically going to be, wait, what? Huh? We got this young head coach to develop our quarterback, and this is what we're getting when the team playing in Carson that's going to be coming here too, they're doing a lot better than us right now, or than this Rams team. So, I mean... that to me is where the big pressure comes, is there needs to be some development with Jared Goff. The question is, how much development will there be under Sean McVay?
Yeah, I think that's definitely important, especially because LA fans could easily say, he's a young guy, we hired this young guy, and look, it's not working. They can easily turn on him, I think.
And also, I mean, some of the things that I look at from the Redskin roster compared to this Rams roster is I'd give the running back, I'd like to give the advantage to the Rams, because Todd Gurley to me has more potential than a Kelly in Washington. And looking at their stats, just over 700 yards this year for Kelly. Last year, about 7.5 yards for Alfred Morris on the ground. So really it looks like in a McVay offense, you're going to get 700 yards on a good, you're not going to get that Zeke type of performance from Todd Gurley. That's our question.
I think can.
What's happening with Todd Gurley, because he had a down year. Mm-hmm. Also, you got to think about it this way. You look at that Washington team, Jared Goff is not going to have Deshaun Watson and Garcon, even Jamison Crowder, or a Jordan Reed to throw to. He's got Tavon Austin, Brian Quick, Kenny Britt, guys who are, Farrah Cooper, the guy they drafted from South Carolina, who's supposed to be something. He's going to be a sophomore. What are we thinking from him? Really, to me, the best receiver on this team is Lance Kendricks, and that's the tight end.
I think a big thing here is that I don't think we can really look at Todd Gurley's season and say anything of it. What Todd Gurley,
because he had a great rookie season.
Yeah, what his season this year was we know that they have a good running back that they're going to feature. Mm-hmm. We know they don't have a quarterback because Case Keenum isn't anything, and he was the starter. Let's remember that. We also know you guys have a terrible offensive line. Todd Gurley was doing fine in his yards per average if you factor in, or yards per carry, I should say, if you factor in the fact that he's getting hit behind the offensive line every single time he touches the ball. So he's doing fine in that, that yards per carry when you factor in the fact that you got to add -2 to everything. So it's just one of these things where they'll be fine with Todd Gurley. He just needs the rest of the team to be there.
What about the receivers, though? They don't have receivers.
This is the hard thing for the Rams, is that they are lacking so much And in order to trade into number 1 overall, they had to give things up as well in the draft. So they're not going to get that young talent in.
And that's the thing. You're not going, like, they would have the 7th pick in the 6th or 7th
something
pick
of
the draft if they had their pick. And I get it. You're like, oh, we could have that pick. We could even take a Mike Williams, and he could then be our number 1 wide receiver. But on the flip side, you got to say, well, if you had the pick, you don't have Jared Goff.
Exactly.
Which are you looking for? Well, in hindsight, Ram fans could say, yeah, I'd go back and do that because I would just take Dak Prescott with the original pick that we had. But
sure, don't have a lot of things that Dallas
knows
has.
The crystal ball and how things would play out. But really, to me, it's Jared Goff. This year is going to be the year. Is he going? Like, I think this is not the make or break year. But this is going to be the year where it's like,
people are going to be
this
expecting a lot.
Well, this is your true rookie season because last year didn't play a lot. Jeff Fisher, if he had his way, would have sat him the entire season. And you had guys like Chris Carter on Fox Sports 1 and the Colin Cowherd show saying things like that. Basically, what he was saying is that from the players, they didn't have confidence in Goff, which showed to him that Goff isn't that good of a quarterback, and they know that he's not good, or else why wouldn't he be starting sooner than he was? I think that somehow you got to get him help because I look like this wide receiving core is so bad. Tavon Austin to me is nothing special. Kenny Britt, he might be your number 1, but to me he's nothing special. I mean, Brian Quick's nothing to write home about. It's one of those. And even Mike Thomas, it's the wrong Mike Thomas. The good Mike Thomas is in New Orleans, the young rookie from last year. So to me, I look at the offense, and if McVay wants to help Jared Goff, he's got to find a way to get a receiver in the door. And I would originally say, oh, well, target a guy like Alshon Jeffery, but it looks like he'll be back with the Bears because he thinks you're winning the Super Bowl.
Hell, I'm good with that. But
apparently, Alshon Jeffery has been watching the podcast and has bought into the Super Bowl Super Bears.
That's right, 16-0. Here's the thing. I'm right there with you. They need to get the offensive line to be better. They need to get the wide receiving options. They need to, at the very least, have a tight end that's reliable. A safety blanket.
Are you confident in Lance Kendricks at all?
No.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Just wanted to throw it out there.
Not necessarily. They need the safety blanket that Jared Goff relies on. And I think that we know they're not going to get stuff in the draft unless they luck out like a Chicago Bears and they can get an Alshon Jeffery, a guy who was later in the draft that people, ignored. And you can get that. It's totally possible. But they need to get somebody in free agency to come here. Whether it's help on the offensive line, which every team's looking for help on the offensive line, so that's tough, or if it's going to be the wide receiver option. But it's a good place to be. It really is. You're in LA. So many players should want to be here. And the problem is, do they want to be on the Rams? That's the hardest thing, and that's what a young guy like McVay needs to do.
You got to win. You got to start winning.
He needs to go out there, and he needs to be the kind of guy that convinces them, that says, look, this is what I did with Kirk Cousins, and I'm getting that guy paid. This is what I'm going to do with Jared Goff. And for a wide receiver, you're going to be his number 1 target. He's going to get paid because you're throwing the ball, and that's going to mean you're getting paid too.
Paint the picture for me.
Yeah.
What is the perfect situation? The perfect scenario for the Rams this season? They were 4-12 this past season. In year 1 with McVay, give me maybe a record. What needs to happen this next season for Rams fans to say, okay, that was a successful season under Sean McVay?
I think 6 wins would be great.
So 6-10.
You don't need to be too lofty in here. You're rebuilding. Last year really started it. But the key factor here, and I think this one's important, you need to win more games than the Chargers. Because they're the other team in LA. And really right now, it's the two teams competing for the market. And we're going to ignore the Raiders. We're going to ignore the Cowboys. But it's 2 teams competing for the market. Whoever can get to the playoffs first, essentially, is the team that wins, right? they're the team that people go, yep, okay, I'm a Raiders. Not Raiders. They're already Raiders fans. I'm a Rams fan now.
You know what's funny? Looks like USC might beat them both to the playoff.
Oh, probably.
With Sam Darnold.
Well, I think the funniest thing is, and I'm sorry that I don't have the credit for where it was, but it was on Twitter where someone said, why did the Chargers initially leave L.A.? Because in case you don't know, the Chargers had played one season in L.A., their first season ever. They left because USC was better. They could not beat USC.
You know what I will throw out, and this is because we've talked about both LA teams now, and we're going to talk about the Chargers in the second podcast that we released this week. But the one thing that I can't help but think about now that there's two teams in LA, when Sam Darnold does come out and is able, because he's only a freshman this past year, we got time. But by that time, let's say he comes out after a junior, that's 2 seasons in the NFL. The Chargers, they might be looking for a quarterback at that time because we don't know if Phillip Rivers is going to retire this year and basically nut up or shut up, or if he's going to play, and by that time they're looking to draft a quarterback, or if Jared Goff is, I'm not saying he will, but what if he fizzles out by that point and the Rams are going, and we need to find an answer. Could Sam Darnold, and this is a hypothetical question, but in the future, could Sam Darnold be a guy that either the Chargers or the Rams look at in the future to say, USC kid, especially if USC did well under him?
That's a way to win some fans.
Coming to LA, bringing that USC contingency to your pro football team. Storyline to look into a few years looking through the looking glass down the line. But just to put the whole kibosh on this, though, do you think Sean McVay, when it's all said and done, is he going to be a successful Rams head coach?
Successful Rams head coach, I think he can be. And I think really what it comes down to is what he can do with Jared Goff. I would put my money on the Rams before I put my money on the Chargers. So, yeah, I'll say he will be. The
interesting thing to me is I am going to say, let's see what Jared Goff can do. Because this is really going to be I think Jared Goff would lose his job before McVay does.
I think, I could agree with that.
It's not going to be, well, you didn't do anything, you're out, Goff is here. It'd be like, well, let's get McVay a guy that he liked.
I just think that, and he might get the opportunity sooner rather than later. But I don't know, though. It's a first overall pick. But the thing is, if he can do it with Cousins, I see no reason why Jared Goff can't do the same thing.
Well, and this is where you guys come in. You guys know the spiel. Join us in the comment section. Let us know what you guys think about this hire, Sean McVay, to the LA Rams. What does this mean for the Rams moving forward? And can McVay develop Goff into I'm going to say a solid starter for the Los Angeles Rams?
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And don't worry, there is plenty more where that came from. You guys can check it out right over here. Click that video, start watching it, and just stick around on Most Valuable Podcasts.